This is the Modern Mastery Unleashed podcast.
Welcome to Modern Mastery Unleashed, the podcast. You are here with Paul Davidson, peak performance coach, and myself, Natalia, Edelmann, life and business strategist. We are so happy to have you here today because we are embarking on a transformative journey into the world of habits. Habits as being the profound impact that you want to have on not just your self-mastery, but on your success. That success defined by you. So that's on your own terms. And we talked a little bit about habits as being these building blocks of personal transformation. We talked about that in our last episode about ritual. So if you hadn't had a chance to listen, make sure you go and have a listen. But we're wanting to talk about how you can understand how to harness the power of habits and really understand how they play a role in unlocking your highest potential. So let's kick this off by asking, why do you think habits are so key to success? And I'm going to pose it to Paul we're going to kick off this conversation. So why do you think habits are so key to success?
Well, we are what we repeatedly do, which I think Aristotle said. Basically, our trajectory is found in what we do daily. So if nothing changes, nothing changes, which is one of our favorites, of course. So, of course, if that's true, then we tend to then become aware. Step one's always awareness, isn't it? Why is it important? I think we come back to the fundamental truth. We all want better habits and to eliminate our bad habits, or to replace bad habits anyway. Mm-hmm. So I think it starts with awareness, is that we inherently want to be better. We want to get better. But you can be stuck in a cycle where we've built a lot of evidence that we've not followed through on what we said we were going to do. So all of that is clouding our judgment on what our capabilities are right now in this moment based on previous evidence. Mm. So I think that's unhelpful. It's good to know, but again, you just decide with intent, a powerful intent, that enough is enough. And I think we think big and we act small, because I think to try and change everything overnight is more than likely a bit too much to ask. It can be useful for a pattern interrupt, for sure, but sometimes it's a process of tiny changes, those 1% shifts. You know, it's like the four Stoic virtues. I think in Latin it means hinge, which, because they're pivotal.
Yeah.
Because they're pivotal. So they're small changes in how you can do things, and just stack habits, tiny habits, 1% shifts, 1% pivots. And I think it's the ultimate flex when you can make a different decision in the same circumstance. That's winning. When you pick that up, when you make a better decision. And obviously how you go about that is quite counterintuitive, because obviously there's the mechanism of how habits work. You have the cue, the craving, response, and reward. So everything, because we work on visual cues, obviously this is a massive topic, but the simplicity of it is there's a cue, craving, response, and reward, and that's how that habit loop works. And it's so fast that we're through it. We walk in, the cookies are baked on the kitchen counter, we smell it, and they're wolfed down before we even think, oh, perhaps I shouldn't have done that. So, but just
Perhaps I
understand.
should have stopped at 3.
Yeah, but of course they're important, because actually your habits are not separate. The habits are what you are. You are what you do. So your habits are you. So you just need to become aware of what those are, first of all. Step one's the awareness. But of course they're important, because it's your trajectory. There's a compounding effect that's happening right now and every day. And it's either making you better or worse. So if you're 1% better every day, of course, I think it's 300 to the 65th power or something like that. But I think we tend to net ourselves out, because the easiest person to lie to is ourselves. I've been there many times, and where you think, okay, I've stuck to this eating plan that I've got, let's say, 5 days out of 7. So I should have the result. But we don't do 80% of the work and get 100% of the result. It doesn't work that way. So we net ourselves out. That's what happens, is that we have a day or two when we're not on it and we're not practicing, not showing up. It looks different. Like showing up in consistency looks different depending on your energy levels and things like that. But I think if you show up and you perform the act, it's important, because you're constantly casting votes on the person you wish to become, which we'll get into. But I think that's an important thing to understand, is that not to net yourself out. Because I think, okay, look, it's the on a daily thing. Well, I've had a cracking workout, so I've earned a Chinese takeaway now. So I know, because you've just netted it out and then some, because you can't out-train a bad diet. I've given that a really good go.
You and me both.
I couldn't do it. I'll give it a really good go, and I couldn't do it. So, that just doesn't work. So I think we tend, with the best intentions, we net ourselves out, and understanding just the awareness of that. You think, okay, you can make the decision, well, I'm not going to change anything that I can't see myself doing in a year's time. Because we're talking about lifestyle change here, not just a 14-day sprint or something. We're weaving in these habits into who we are becoming. So it's okay, well, what could I make? What could I do no matter where I am, what time it is? What could I do, and what could I stack it with? And what do I, and I think it's easy. Sometimes you think, okay, well, what habits do I want to build? I think we're far more aware of, because of our negative bias, we're more aware of the things we'd wish to stop doing, I'd say, than the things that we wish to implement. So sometimes we're more focused on the things we'd like to stop, which is fine. I think the awareness of those things is okay, because then they lose a little bit of power over you once you become conscious. And I think we just want to become conscious of that first of all, and then we can start to make changes.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, so I wrote down 2 really key things that we sort of touched on there, and that is, your habits are you. And that it's the lifestyle choice, and how clear are you on that lifestyle choice?
Yeah.
Which, I think we were going to get into next.
Absolutely. I mean, I suppose a question posed to you is that, why do you feel it's so hard for people to stick to their habits, or their good intentions for their habits?
Yeah, it's so funny, because we all know what we should do. We all know what we should do, right? And first we got to stop at the shoulds, and we've talked about this, but I think it kind of goes back to what we were talking about last week, which was, Do you have a clear vision of what you want, of who you are? So going back to this be, do, have concept, it's not about the doing. It is about the being first. And yes, your habits are going to be behind who you are, but you have to start with who do you want to be? If you took yourself 12 months from now and it was the best year of your life, how would you describe yourself? What words would you use to say, I am happy, I am successful, I am healthy, I am fit? But then it's going deeper into those, well, what does that look like for you? Just because you say healthy, okay, but does that mean, you're running marathons? Does that mean you're just at a comfortable weight where you have the energy to do what you want? And that's, I think, the trouble for people is that you have these big aspirations, like I want to be healthy, I want to be successful, but then you don't take the time to define what that is on your terms. So you're going for this ideal situation that someone else has essentially defined for you, i.e. society, your upbringing, everything that you've learned up until this point, that now you have to sort of challenge and say, well, is that how I define success? Is that how I define health? Is that how I define energetic? And you have to delve into that, because then it's the activities that you do that help you become that individual. And I think we so often stop at the very surface level stuff. I want to be healthy. I want to be rich. What does that mean for you? What does I want to be wealthy mean? It means very different things for different people. And, as we're redefining what wellness is, and we're bringing you on this wellness revolution with us, it's, wellness is that state of being. It's an active process of making the choices that lead you to a happier, healthier, and more fulfilled life that is defined by you. Like, you also get to define what is happiness. You say, I want to be happy. Well, what does that mean for you? What does that look like? I want to be healthy. We kind of delved into already, and I want to be fulfilled. I want to have meaning in my life. Well, what does that mean for you? Does that mean there's an element of philanthropy? Does that mean, you're helping kids? It can have so many. There is no one size fits all here, because you have to really set the intention and get clear on who you want to be, what you want to do, and the have becomes a byproduct, and that's where I think a lot of people, certainly in my experience, like my own personal experience, but also in working with others, that is one thing that when you start to reframe, well, what are habits and why are they important, and what do they mean for me? Why should I do them? That becomes really powerful, because you're starting to take responsibility, you're starting to take ownership, and you're starting to take control over what you deem is important, what matters to you, how you want to be, essentially. And so I think if you are a listener that is struggling with, sticking to habits, or you find you're always trying to implement the same habit, I think you want to sort of stop and recognize that pattern, just like we were saying, have that awareness. But, I think it's worth getting into some practical strategies that you can use to really take responsibility of your habits, and not have them be something you always try to do, but something that you take action on. We're all about the execution here, because that's what's going to make the difference. So let's take the next little bit to talk about some actionable strategies that you can use. And if anyone is listening and they have some, ideas that you can help share with others, and from your personal experience, we'd love to hear your strategies as well. But yeah, I mean, we started with one, which was awareness. What are some other strategies that we can use to help our listeners really master their habits and create that success for themselves?
Well, I think you touched on it there, which is the most important principle. So in my experience and my own personal experience and shortcomings, may I say, is that we tend to base our habitual changes on outcomes first. So that's the outcome I want. So I'll start there. And then we go to processes, which are habits, the routines, the diet, the strategy. And then we end up with identity, which is the longest way round. So I think step one is, who do you wish to become? So if you start with identity and then think, so in practical sense, let's say there's a smoker who's trying to give up smoking. So if you're with a social group and someone offers you a cigarette and you say, well, no, I'm trying to give up smoking, your identity is still a smoker who's trying to give up, which is most likely not going to last. But if you said, no, I don't smoke, your identity is that I don't smoke. There's no longer the push and pull. Your identity is a non-smoker. So then the behavior follows the identity. So you can adopt okay, if you're trying to lose weight, but you find doing it for yourself is difficult, you could adapt the identity of a role model in your family for your little ones, the young people around you. Practically, this is going to mean something, because we're all leaving a legacy without permission to the younger people who are around us, because it's not taught, it's caught. So they're going to pick up their beliefs and the meaning and their worldview, their paradigm, their blueprint from what they see as to what's possible and how things should be. So it's a very important point to pick that up, because that's where most people struggle. That first 7 years is when we pick up most of this stuff. So if we can put a stop to that and be aware of it now, the world will be a better place. So if you think about, okay, if I'm setting an example, what example would I want to set? Or what would a healthy person do? So, well, I'm a role. I want to adopt the identity of a role model. I want to be a role model to my kids, to my nieces, my nephews, to the young people around me, and to the people around me. I want to set an example. So then the behavior follows that. Well, it's like, well, yeah, but a role model in my family just wouldn't do that. So then the behavior follows that. And even if you don't know what you wish to be, you certainly are aware of what you don't want. So what's the opposite of that? So it'll be like, okay, well, I'm performing this, I'm watching Netflix too late and I'm getting up, I'm always underslept, which is making my days really hard to perform. Well, you know that you don't want to do that. So the opposite is, okay, well, can I go to bed 15 minutes earlier and pick up a book instead of my phone? That'd be a great start to changing your life. So it's just adopting identity first, then the process and habits that follow that identity, the outcome will take care of itself. And that's, again, yes, I know what my outcome is, and where I am right now is here. So what are the key fundamentals that I'd have to do to move me to that outcome? So if I start with who I wish to be, know my outcome, and then the processes that are in the middle of that, there'll be key fundamentals in there, which will be simple but not necessarily easy. So then what are the cues which are really causing a problem? So if it's that there's always bad food or junk food in your house on view, so you've got your visual cue, because that's what we work on, how can you hide that, remove it from the environment? So you've got to stack the odds in your favor by making sure that the visual cues are supporting your desired behavior and your desired identity. Make those things easy. So the things you want, if I want to pick up a reading habit, let's say I want to read more. If all the books are in the furthest corner of the house with the door shut, there's too much friction in between, and your brain's working too hard to go and do that thing because it's not easy to pick up. But if you think, okay, I want to pick up a book and read when I get sleepy, I go to sleep. Well, you just put the book on your pillow so that you've got a visual cue. That's what I do. It's easy. If you want to work out in the morning, workout clothes next to the bed. You get up, you just put it on. It's easy. You're not having to work hard. So you just want it to be easy and enjoyable to start the process for the habits you want to build. And then the ones that you want to dismantle is to remove the visual cue, and you'll be surprised how quickly that falls away. So if there was, let's say, beer at the front of somebody's fridge, and they constantly have a beer in the evening, or they can see wine on the table, if you remove that cue and you put the beer at the back of the fridge where you can't see it unless you have to get on your hands and knees to see it, you'll find that you won't want one. The trigger just isn't there. The cue isn't there. So therefore the response isn't there. So what friction can you introduce? So me and Helen wanted to watch less TV. So we just unplugged it from the wall. So even though it's 3 meters away, that's enough friction for us to think, oh, I can't be bothered to get up and plug it in.
I love that. That's a great little tactic.
So it's just like, what friction can you introduce? So if you're scrolling social media all the time, you can put your phone in grayscale, and then you'll never want to look at it ever again, by the way. Or you can put app limits on there. So you could have like a 45-minute app limit on specific things. So then when you go on there, you know automatically you've got 45 minutes. So if you're doing it, if you're using it for business, if it's pleasure, cut that down. Do you really need to be on it that long? So it's people say they haven't got time. It's like, well, okay, well, let's look at our screen time. So I'm sure there is time with this, just the lack of priority and direction. So what friction can you introduce? So if you put healthy food on the table and not tucked away, if you put all the junk food in a box that's covered, like our nieces come round, and of course they like treats and good knows what else, but me and Helen don't want to see them. So Helen put a little piece of paper, because it's a clear Tupperware tub for their like treat tub, and it says do not touch in it, right? So, and there's a piece of paper, so when you look at it, there's no visual cue because I can't see it, and the most disciplined, self-controlled people with the most so-called willpower just don't put themselves in an environment where you have to be a superhero 24/7. So it's like, control your environment, so how can you stack the odds in your favor? Make the desired behavior cues easy. So if you like Audible, just make the app on the first screen of your phone and move all the other apps to like the second or third swipe. So when you open your phone, the first thing you see is your Audible app.
I love that.
It's just an easy cue that's rewarding, because then if you practice it, you get rewarded for it. So then you want to do it again. So it's just practical things, isn't it? That you can do, but then just adding a bit of friction into the ones and removing the initial visual cue will do the job, you'll find. So you think, oh, I'm addicted to watching Netflix. Well, it's like, well, unplug the TV and then see how motivated you are to get up to plug it in.
Yeah, I mean,
Not very.
Yeah. I mean, we actually canceled Netflix for the summer. Like we only really put it on for the winter months because that's when you're home more but in the summer, you want to be outside, you want to be active. I mean, it's one of the reasons why we love being in Spain, because you have the climate that makes it easy to want to be outside all the time. I mean, Canadian winters are not fun, ladies and gentlemen, not fun. And I kind of want to go back to one thing you said, because I've actually never heard this. And I'm just wondering if any other listeners are feeling the same. But you said grayscale, put your phone on grayscale. What is that?
Yeah, of course. So the visual cue that keeps us scrolling is that the brain's saying, oh, yeah, I'm loving this stimulation. But when you put your phone in grayscale, it looks horrific.
Is that on your iPhone? Is this an iPhone?
Yeah, you can do it. You can do it on anything. But yeah, I mean, just obviously check it out. You can watch a 2-minute YouTube video which will show you how to do it. But essentially, you go into settings and filters on an iPhone. That's what I have, and you can put your phone in grayscale. And when you look at that, you no longer wish to look at it.
That's really
you really don't.
That's really excellent.
Yeah, you no longer wish to look at it because you no longer have that stimulation of the color. You just like don't like looking at this. So, what's next?
That's hilarious. No, I really loved what you were saying here because, especially just the whole thing around most people start with the outcome first and then the process and then the identity. Whereas, it makes so much sense to start with the identity and then go to the activities and then do the process, and then that's the outcome is the byproduct. And I think that's the beauty also of like SMART goals, because you make them more specific, you make them measurable, actionable, timely. And yeah, that's smart. That's SMART goals. I mean, so I think just to wrap everything up, we talked about, why why habits are important to your success. We talked about why is it so hard for people to execute the habits that they know they should do. We all know what we should do, right? And then the third thing is we wanted you to walk away with some key strategies that you can use to really help yourself implement what you're wanting to implement and stop trying these habits. And I like the example of the smoker that you had, no thanks, I'm trying to quit, versus no thanks, I don't smoke. It's very distinct. The language there is really powerful. And we'll get into languages, like we've kind of touched on it in past episodes, but the language that you have and you use with yourself is paramount. So we'll put the strategies that we talked about in the show notes, but make it like start with identity, make it easy, introduce friction. Put your phone on grayscale if you're an iPhone user. I'm going to go check that out. Use timers, take a time audit. If you've never done that, it's a really interesting process, a really interesting exercise, I should say. And then, be in control of your environment. Make it easy. Set yourself up for success by removing the temptations in the first place. So that's it for today, I think, unless you want to add anything, Paul.
No, I mean, I think one of the takeaways would be is every action you take is a vote towards the person that you wish to become. So every action you take is either taking you towards that identity or away from, and then it makes it easy in the moment to delay gratification. So if you assume the identity of an athlete, then would an athlete be doing that?
Yeah.
the thing I'm about to do or the decision I'm about to make to eat half a dozen donuts. It's not about living like a monk, but you're just aware of those actions. So you're building new beliefs, which are legs on a table. So this is how you shape identity, which I suppose we could finish with, is that the idea of picking up a book and reading a book every day isn't just to pick up a reading habit, it's to become a reader. The idea isn't to pick up an instrument and just play a little bit every day. You're assuming the identity of I'm a musician, and the evidence suggests that. So in the past, when I've said I've created an affirmation of something that I really deeply believe, and I've noticed the moment I've said it, it stayed in my head because my body said, but I have no evidence to support that. So I think it makes it easy for behavior change that you're stacking evidence towards that identity. So everything can accept that and it feels right. So if you say that I am becoming a musician, well, I've practiced on my acoustic guitar for 15 minutes every day. I am becoming a musician. That's it. So you stacked the evidence to support the belief. That's the thing. So if I treat my body as if I'm a professional athlete. Well, yeah, I'm eating well, 80-20. I'm working out 3 times a week. I'm becoming an athlete. So your beliefs are the table, and your actions and the evidence that you build are the legs under the table. So that's the idea, is just never put up a zero. So you want to be practicing that habit. Even can you do a minute? Just keep showing up. Just keep showing up every day. Just don't net yourself out. Every action you take is a vote towards the person you wish to become, I put my teeth back in. So it's an important point to think about, because the beauty is in the becoming, isn't it? It's in the becoming. And if it wasn't difficult, it wouldn't be worthwhile. The mere fact that it's difficult sometimes makes it worthwhile, because if it was easy, there would be no worth to it. So that's the beauty of it. The toil of the current and future self I just love. It's ancient, isn't it? It's choosing the path of honor and courage and discipline and wisdom and justice, temperance. It's those beautiful virtues that we prize so much, but that you can't quite put your finger on. But we all admire courage, discipline, self-control, temperance, kindness. We value that so much, and that could be something that you're working towards. I want to really show my appreciation and more kindness, because it's in my heart, but it isn't going anywhere. So how would a kind person act? What would they do? Would they show more appreciation each day? Could you drop a message out to somebody to say, I really appreciate you being in my life, just for no reason other than that? Then you'll adopt the evidence that, yeah, I am a kind person. So it's coming back to that. Again, this is simple, but it has to have some meaning to you emotionally. And I think that's the thing. It's like it is the be, do, have. Again, we come back to that. It's like, who do you want to be? Why do you want to be that? What does it mean? And just focus on the trajectory and not the position, because I think we're very conscious of the position, the number on the scale, the number in the bank, the car, the position I'm in. But if you focus on the trajectory of where you are, like where's that going to end up in 5 years? And a slight course correct changes everything. So if an aeroplane changes course by 1 degree, its destination over the long term is totally different.
Yeah.
So, and also, even though it's got its destination set it constantly course corrects throughout the whole journey.
Mhm.
So nothing's perfect. We're going to have lots of course corrects. It will be messy, and that's okay. So that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Please subscribe, like, share this to anyone who might need this. And we will see you next week. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening.